Hey folks, welcome back. Another Pawn Master video, and today we're gonna finish up this month's, end of the month. I guess tier list, tier list with the damage dealers over here, right? And the damage dealers, obviously probably always the most controversial one. I want to say, I don't know. I'll have to check the statistics, but it does generally seem like that, right? Because for a few reasons, because first of all, there's like a lot to consider in terms of like damage dealers, because it's not only just damage, although obviously damage is a big part. It's in the name, damage dealers, right? But there's also always team comp issues, right? Every turn considerations, setup wise, all that stuff. But and plus there's just a lot. Like, look how many of them. Like, oh my goodness, jeez, that's a lot of them. So I'm gonna go through a few of them, rather quick. Just the ones that everyone knows what's going on, and the ones that don't really matter that much. So there's that. So anyways, so yeah, shout outs to the folks who helped work on this, right? Our Discord mods, right? Runner, Donson, Joe, and Vina. Right. So let's I guess let's get into this. Obviously, again, all these are subjective. It's not a list in terms of which units are worth summoning on or not. And these are not ranked within the tiers. So, I mean, everyone in the same tier is not ranked in order, left to right or whatever. Don't do that. Okay. So, yeah. Let's get into this as usual. Let's just go. Let's throw one in each just to sort of get what the vibe is for each tier, right? Starting with the first one, which is obviously Kyogre, right? This is basically the Groudon Kyogre tier plus one more unit, just because 3 sounds better than 2. And also I also do think Leer's is better than anyone else, but we'll talk about that once we talk about Leer, I guess. Moving on to the next tier in the I think it's called top tier, right? In this case, I guess Marnie's a pretty good rep for that, right? Just insane amounts of damage on her 2 gauge move, very, very easy to fit on teams, very powerful sync nuke, etc., right? Moving on to the, I guess, close to top tier, as it's called, something like an N, right? N does have one big issue, which is Volkner, which does kind of sort of limit his team comp quite a bit, unfortunately. Makes his team comp generally just not as flexible, and the big thing with Volkner is he's just not that great of a damage dealer. I mean, he can if you want with wild charge, other than the fact that he like 2-shots himself, but yeah, he is limited to his team comp, unlike other like terrain units, like Psychic Terrain. You have Bianca, who does 1 billion damage per turn. May, obviously, right? Groudon, Kyogre, they all do, like, and Volkner on the other hand doesn't do that much. But N himself is pretty good. He is, again, just slightly limited to his game. Not saying Volkner's bad unit. Volkner's a great unit. He's just, like, damage-wise, it's sort of limiting, right? And the fact that he can't, fully buff himself. Because if he can fully buff himself, he could still run, like, another unit beside him, deal with that damage. But unfortunately, he can't. So you'll have to run, like, a dedicated comp for him, which is... But other than that, he's nice, right? Moving on. To the next, I guess, so-called fantastic tier, I guess. We could put something like this Lance, right? Very, very uninteresting kit. However, I don't care how boring his kit is. He does a lot of damage, right? He does a lot of damage. And it's pretty rare for a unit to be this powerful that doesn't have terrain or weather carrying, right? Moving on to the next, I guess, great tier. We could throw something in like Elisa. Obviously her wild charge does good damage, but it is still wild charge. The recoil is not fun, but outside of that, great sync nuke, all that stuff, good speed, but yeah, has the same limitations as N does, basically. Moving on to the still good tier, we could throw in something like a where is our friend? I can't find any of them right now. What? Ah, there we go. Same as Cynthia. She's fine. She's pretty slow. Her damage overall isn't the best. She debuffs her defense every time you use her thing. But again, she does gain it back with her sync. Team comps aren't aren't terrible, but aren't like anything special either, right? But yeah, bad. I wouldn't say bad, just mediocre damage plus slow, basically. Decent here, we could have something like, I guess, Fraligator. As bad as Fraligator is, she still runs in range, still can give you a solid 500k, right? As a Haymaker nuke, so there's that. And the falls off a bit here, we have something like Guzma. This guy's just not good. I don't know why I can't remember what I was about to say, but yeah, he's not that great. His pin missile damage is obviously quite mediocre at this point, and his sync is not great either, right? So, moving on. I mean, it's not like terrible a sync, but it's not as good as people think it is. Into the end here, which is just the slightly better ungridded units. I think probably the best of them would be like Ardinia, right? Pretty solid damage on Leaf Storm, but otherwise, nothing else much special, right? No modifiers to this or that, or relevant ones, I guess. Nor does she have grid. And then something in like the not very good tier is something like, I don't know, Kaili. Like, she has good physical attack stat, but everything else just sucks. Peck and Big Blast are terrible moves. And yeah, let's continue to fill up the lower tier. This guy does nothing. He actually has a pretty interesting kit, but his moves are bad. What else? Norman takes himself out. And speaking of people who take themselves out, Rourke as well. Bugsy's moves are bad. Muzzle's not that terrible, I guess. I think Muzzle's better than most of these, but he's still not. She's still not that great. Overall, Tate's moves are bad. This guy's moves are bad. Is that most of them? Oh, Valerie. Valerie's not great. Oh, also in the utility list, I forgot to put Umbra in there. So yeah, she's probably in good tier, or maybe one. I don't know. I think she's fine here. I think she's probably one of the weaker ones in here though. So maybe like somewhere not bad or good. So just that, I guess, for those who care. Moving on. Let's get to the tiers. And we'll have something like Machamp, who's like okay. Same thing with Marshall for like non-gridded damage healers. Rocky's not the worst. Chantel's not the worst. I don't like Moline's kit, but he's not terrible. Same thing with Arbok. Although Arbok is pretty borderline, honestly. Anyways, moving into the falls off a bit. We got stuff like Kingdra. Kingdra and I guess Will's still solid with stored power. Obviously a very, very powerful move, but otherwise his kit's not, the best. What else can we have in here? We could have where's Nate Areno? There's Nate. Not that good. No, Nate is not better than Rayquaza. Oh my god. He's not better than Stephen. Unbelievable. Moving on, let's see. What else? How's okay. His discharge not good. His sync's actually not bad. Iris is not very great. What else? Infernape. He's probably one of the better ones here, I guess. Lucar's okay. Moving on to the decent tier, we have stuff like Lyra Puff. Some might argue she's tier higher. I don't really agree with that personally. I do think her team is really clunky to run, right? Although, actually, to be fair, it did get much better. It did get much better with stuff like Yahweh or Falconer and stuff. It did get much better. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think I'm ready to move Lyra up one yet though. Moving on. What we are ready to move one up is actually, however, Fantina. Fantina does benefit quite a bit from Annie Lily, actually, just from the ghost type theme skill. All right, she does what? It's not like 500k on her Shadow Ball post sync, which is actually pretty good, honestly. There are a few things that still hold her back, though. Her max multiplier is slightly cringe, and well, she doesn't have an EX either. Not that if she had an EX, she would be a tier higher, but you know, yeah, she's okay. She's okay. She's not as bad as people think. Nowadays. Celine's damage is very, very low. Her sync's not bad, right? But although I do also have a bone to pick with her sync. I just really don't like that you have to like restrain the unit, the opponents beforehand for the sync. It's just, especially if you're like EX lane and you like have to like restrain every single unit on their team. It's just a lot of extra work, right? Or slash turns wasted. Well, not wasted, but you know, spent. What else? Houndoom, very, very good Dark Pulse damage. Unfortunately, she does have the bug of and by bug, you know, I don't mean like an error, but like she does have the issue of you do have to sync with her, right, to even use her, and she does have a pretty demanding team comp as well for that max damage, right, to hit. But again, her damage cap is pretty high in comparison to a lot of other units over here. Berg's okay, solid sync nuke, I guess. It's not like a fun one to set up though, but it's something. What else? This Karen, pretty easy to set up. Damage cap relatively low, but easy to, you know, just plug and run any team. Price is okay, I guess. Drift Bloom has a decent sync. Everything else is terrible. Moving on to the, I guess, still good tier. I guess one that we did demote is actually blue, regular blue. Just cause, if I could find him, oh, there he is. Just cause he has a similar issue with Karen. You can't do anything with him if you don't sync with him, and his sync is pretty bad. So there's that, but he does have overall better stats than Karen. And his team isn't as demanding unless you're trying to run Harry on him, which I personally just wouldn't run Harry on him, right? But then again, it does lower your damage cap, so I don't think that much different from Karen generally, right, if you actually think about it. So there's that, I guess. Moving on, I'm gonna have Ethan. He is a sun guy, right? Sun fire units, good, but he has AoE and his multipliers are incredibly unreliable, so that's why he's not, you know, higher. Lose means very, very, very fast. Obviously, your damage is not very great, but she is very, very, very fast. Moving on, Mallow, very good sync nuke. Her regular damage not that, you know, terrible either. So there's that. Solgaleo is another one that we moved up a bit, or just her damage is just slightly a bit better. And she does have a bit more forgiving team comps overall. Plus her fighting type damage is actually pretty solid. In Focus Blast, right? So yeah, here's Barry, good sync nuke. His regular damage is not very good. Reminds me a bit of Olivia. Right, except Olivia's, I think, regular damage is a bit better than Barry's now. Moving on to the great tier, we have Hilda. Hilda's basically Elisa, but like fire. What else? Sharpedo is basically Elisa, Hilda, but like water, but better and like faster, and the like recoil. Unless you use Sink or Swim, which why would you use that? So yeah, moving on. Let's see. I guess we'll also have Olivia, which is basically rock type. Elisa, Hilda, Grimsley, except like worse, I guess. What else? This Rayquaza is good, right? This Rayquaza is pretty good. Just overall solid damage, good team comps if you have the units. Good team comps, right? And then you have Garchomp, which is again now a lot better with Ingo, right? You could run more versatile team comps with her. Her damage overall is pretty low, unfortunately. Moving on. Oh, another one we moved up is Gloria. Where's Gloria? Again, her damage is pretty bad if the opponent doesn't sync, right? Like really, really bad. But again, she's still fast and all that stuff. And the opponent's post-sync damage does make her a bit better, right? So moving on into the, in this case, fantastic tier. We could throw in the other lands. Where's the other lands? This lands. He's solid, right? He has a pretty high damage cap, although again that he does have like his team comp's not the best, right? Overall, some iffy team comps. But the other thing about his max damage is, even though like it's there, you don't really like using it, right? Because like, why would you pick up paralysis energy? Basically, I feel like running Thunder Kyogre and then you somehow get paralysis on the Thunder, but like overall, you generally won't really be getting it too much. So, yeah. Oh, also this physical special split on sync regular moves is kind of cringe. Same with this Lance as well, right? That's why people don't like syncing with him, because the physical special split, right? Next we have Wally. Wally's good. Focus Spot's pretty powerful, all that stuff. Cakewalk, you do have that sync nuke as an option available as well. Overall, not a huge hindrance on your team speed, right? Especially if he gets hit, then it actually helps your team speed, which is good. Moving on, Hala, good regular damage, good haymaker sync nuke damage. Just very slow, but fantastic damage, but incredibly slow, basically. Over here. Next I got this guy. His damage is not that great. His max move is good, right? Although it's not like fantastic either, but it's like not bad. He has a inertia nuke, right? It's just he has the same like issue Gloria has basically, and Zamazenta, I guess. If you care that much about using Zamazenta for damage, like you can, but that's obviously not his main function. Hilbert's overall damage is not that great. He's great, he helps your team though, right? With all the extra stuff he does. Well, it's more so, I guess, rather than helping your team, it's more so not burdening your team when you're running him. I think that's probably a better way to put it, right? You don't need that much consideration if you're trying to slot him into another damage dealer comp to in terms of his personal stat buffs. You don't need much considerations there. He doesn't drag down your team's overall move gauge use percentage, right? So that's always nice as well, which is good. Summer Gloria, unfortunately she's a water type, but fortunately since she's a water type, she does good damage. Despite all the other stuff. Oh, forgot to put this guy in there. Yeah, he's not great. What else? Diantha we could put close top, pretty solid unit, I guess. Nothing too much to say about that. Surfetch is solid regular move damage and good sync. Raihan's pretty fantastic at this point with Ingo, right? Alder's pretty good still, Hyper Beam, etc. Brendan's pretty good, Leaf Storm good damage on Inertia, Nuke as well. Mewtwo's pretty good, right? The psych damage is nice, the Sync Nuke, etc. And now he has an EX, which is cool. Nessa Dreadnought, which is very, very powerful, really powerful Sync Nuke, pretty good Dark type damage as well, but obviously Razor Shell, very, very powerful. And I guess that's most for most of them for this tier. Moving on, we have Leon over here on the top because he's Leon, right? And then we also have this guy because he's like Leon except without the master passive. And then Archeops, which is also pretty powerful, really fast setup as well. Especially now with blue, which by the way, we didn't put blue in the damage dealer list because we only put like units in like one tier unless they're like at the very top of like multiple tiers, right? Which is why we have like Maxi Archie here again, but like not blue, even though blue obviously also very potent as a damage dealer. But he does have that dire hit thing, which can be used to obviously support his teammates. But yeah, blue is, if blue were to be ranked here, he'd be probably be, you know, around Emmett as well, right? They're obviously, again, you know, pretty close to each other in terms of how good they are. Moving on, Groudon's obviously still up here. He's just Kyogre, but like ground and grass. And we have Leer. I see a lot of people not getting the Leer thing. Obviously, Leer is not as good as Groudon Kyogre, but he's still very good. He's the only unit in the game that could realistically break 10 million damage, right? Nessa's the other one, although the thing with Nessa is it's not realistic. Nessa's, you know, it's nearly impossible. But for Leer is actually possible, right? And it's actually very not only is it possible for Leer to break 10 million damage, it's actually really easy too, right? Very easy to set up for you know, 10 million plus damage for Leer, which again, he is the only one who could break that realistically, and no one else is even close. Again, Nessa could do it, but Nessa, it's unrealistic. It's like borderline impossible, right? And again, on the other side, Leer, super easy to set up 10 million damage. Yeah, like no one's close, right? On top of the like, I don't think people, I guess, sort of understand how great the 1 or potentially even 2 full turns of Sync Move Countdown is. In terms of the how valuable that is, because it is very good. On top of Hyperspace Hull, hitting, you know, as or as close as like a Blast Burn from Charizard. So very good unit. Great team comps as well with Bianca, obviously. And we have the 2 new ones. And I'm inclined to put, I'll talk about them one at a time, I guess. Close to top. If you're wondering, what, doesn't she suck? No, not really. Obviously, she's not that great off type, but on type, she's still, you know, respectable damage, right? She basically does around Alder, right? Without Alder's full setup, and obviously Alder, you know, has the whole setup and stuff, but Lily doesn't have that complicated of setup. Lily just presses one button and then she starts blasting, right? Which is very good in this case. And yeah, pretty good sync as well. Just overall really good you know, unit, even though again her damage cap is pretty low, right, in comparison to like a lot of units over here, although it is still like, it's still better lit than like Surfetched in this case, right? In terms of her regular move damage. And then the other one is Steven. If you're saying, what, isn't this guy like worse than Nate? No, he's not worse than Nate. Oh my god. I don't believe, like, it's unbelievable the amount of times I would say that he's not an objectively bad unit. He's just not up to expectations of what the anniversary, you know, big anniversary unit should probably be. But he is not an objectively bad unit. He actually has a very high damage cap for, you know, for a, you know, non-top tier unit. Again, a non-top tier unit. It's still not, you know, it's still not anything crazy like you know, what you could see, but he does have that potential. The setup is hard, right? The setup is hard. His sync does nothing, right? However, that might not actually even be like a bad thing, because like in this case, you could just always just sync with the support EX instead, and that will just result in like much better you know, stuff over here, right, from him. He has some pretty powerful team comps, right? Once Lyra gets her EX, he's gonna be much better. But yeah, I mean, again, I definitely don't agree he's like top tier or whatever, but he's also not trash, right? For example, if you compare him with Lancedos, even though Lancedos obviously much easier to reach his cap, however, Lancedos just has an overall more wonky or not wonky, but more clunky team comp in comparison to Rayquaza. And then Rayquaza has a lot of other great things. For example, he's not that much a burden to your team speed. He has Fleet Feet. He buffs his speed every time he attacks, right? He buffs his defenses every time he attacks, which is also, you know, something to consider. And also one thing that, you know, that doesn't come to mind often, but he has a master passive, and even though it's not the, you know, it's not Hone Spirit or Hone Soul, it's still a solid master passive, right? That again helps your whole team as you know, in general, right? And he's not super hard to set up either. For his own like max offensive buffs, right? You just need what, extra +2 attack, unless you want to pick up the Fierce Entry thing, which I'm not a fan of because that means you'll have to sync with him, and I'd just rather sync with Support EX in that case. But yeah, yeah, he's still, you know, pretty powerful. I'd say he's probably more on the lower echelon of this tier, but I definitely don't think he's lower than this tier though. So, I mean, if you disagree, that's fine, whatever. But unless you're DNA, if you're watching this, then Steven's actually like secretly terrible, and please buff him. But anyways, that's me with this one. I guess hope y'all enjoy. Let me guys think in the comments down below. Like, enjoy this video, subscribe to my channel for some more Master. I'm sorry I couldn't upload the Master Mode thing. I have like a really big assignment due like really soon. I have to like work on that, unfortunately, but I'll upload that in the following days. Hopefully, I'm just slightly busy with like schoolwork and stuff. I have to write a novel. Why? What kind of class like makes you write a novel? That's so weird. Anyways, have fun, folks. Don't get like too heated in the comments down below. I don't want to ban anyone over this. Like, please be respectful, sorta. And I'll see you guys in the next one then.